about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
That was great sounds. Watts with Outside on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Preston, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, Mr. Easy Blues. Easy Blues, you are always better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us on the broadcast today?
Ladies and gentlemen, today we take another journey. Today, it's another visual journey that we get to go on. We get to go and explore and see the world through someone else's eyes, see the world through someone else's perspective. That is what truly makes an artist incredible. For that and that alone, I want you to put your hands together. Not if you're driving. If you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2 because we don't need any accidents. But mentally, put your hands together for the fantastic, the amazing, the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Emerson Smith is in the building. Welcome, benvenue.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction.
Awesome.
He tries his best.
I do.
Yeah.
Definitely does try his best. He definitely does. He says you get paid for it, but we don't know. But, Emerson, when did you first fall in love with painting?
When did I first fall in love with painting? I've always been creative, I would say, but I started painting a little bit more seriously in high school. And then in college, I kind of bopped around a lot, but I did a studio arts minor. So I guess, again, a little bit more at that time. And then since then, I've just sort of been slowly expanding my freelance art, mostly self-taught, but I have a lot of really talented friends. So I've learned a lot from them along the way, too.
Can you tell us about that first child? About that first art that you made?
First art that I made.
Or the first art that meant the most to you?
First art that meant the most to me was probably, very different than what I'm doing now, but towards the end of high school, I kind of got into doing these multimedia projects. So I did a lot of them as I would take a reference photo of a self-portrait, draw that with colored pencil, and then I'd sort of do a bunch of collaging and even fold some origami and have yarn and various other, I'd collage stuff from old magazines and greeting cards, and then that was kind of when I started taking it more seriously, I guess. I don't really do that anymore, but I have contemplated dipping my toe back into more multimedia. But since then, I really got into watercolor for a long time. So that will be, I have a show coming up. So some of the watercolors will be there. A lot of watercolor plein air paintings, landscapes. And then lately I've been moving out of that a little bit into playing with acrylics a little bit more.
How do you decide which medium to use for a piece? When's a good time to use watercolor? When's a good time to go acrylic? When's a good time just to go straight pen?
I really like using the watercolors for stuff that can be a little bit more impressionistic and expressive. A lot of the beauty of it is how the paint sort of has a little bit of a mind of its own. So I like using it for stuff that needs to be a little bit less precise. I feel like there's a lot of wiggle room with landscapes where it's representative, but you have a lot of room to play. So I feel like watercolor is nice for that. I've done a lot of watercolor portraits kind of for the same reason. Even though there's structure, it's nice to see how the paint can be a little bit more expressive. Acrylics I like to save for stuff that I want a little more precision with. And I also have been trying to do more large scale pieces, and I find that acrylics are good for that if you want to cover a lot of ground on canvas. Watercolors I like to keep kind of small, just for me personally. And then same with pen drawings. I did do a pretty good series of smaller pen drawings, and I really like using small microns and getting those tiny little details in that you couldn't necessarily do with a bigger brush with acrylics. It's just different, So.
How has living in New Haven shaped or supported your artistic journey?
Well, I would say that the summer when I graduated high school before I went to college, I've actually when I was a kid I used to take classes at Creative Arts Workshop too. Nice. But yeah, that summer I was interning there, and I happened to meet somebody who became one of my closest friends, and he was a very talented artist. He also painted graffiti, and knowing him and spending time with him in New Haven actually really shaped a lot of my work. So I know it's not New Haven as a city, but it's a person I met in New Haven that really like shifted how I look at art. But yeah, being here in general, I mean, it has a great art scene. I love spending time on Audubon Street, seeing creative arts, having the art galleries here that we can pop into for free anytime. I mean, it's definitely nice to have. So
let's talk about In Bloom, your latest expedition. It focuses on rose paintings. Why roses?
Yeah, well, I love to go on little walks, and I will always take a picture of flowers if I come across them. So I had a really vast library of flower photos in my phone. So initially, before I put more thought into it, it was just more like, oh, that's, I love the structure of the flower, like I want to kind of like explore that. And then it kind of became a reflection on how I feel when I'm looking at the flowers. Like I realized I put some more thought into it, and it's like, sometimes I'll be going on a walk because I'm having like an awful day, and I'm, trying to get some steps in and get some fresh air. And then even if I'm having a horrible time, I can still look at something beautiful in nature and feel like my perspective is shifted a little bit. So that's kind of what I have taken the show to mean at this point, is just sort of, paying attention to the beauty that we can find in nature and in flowers, which it's easy to take for granted, but if you take a moment to, do the cliche of stopping to smell the roses, I feel like it's an important thing to do. So.
Is that an emotional or symbolic significance behind the Flora series?
I mean, I feel like, it's just like what I said. I mean, it's symbolic of appreciating the small things that can pop up in your day that are meaningful, even when, there's a lot going on right now, when like life can feel kind of bleak and dark and scary, and there's still these beautiful things that we can appreciate. So that's symbolically what I would like to take these representations to mean.
Those small little miracles, everything is really important when it comes down to those small little miracles, and when we can look at them and we can truly appreciate them, there's a little bit closer to happiness there. So I really respect your perspective on this one and how it goes. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm glad you resonate with it.
What do you hope people feel when they view this exposition?
I'm not too sure. I mean, I think everybody perceives art like a little bit differently. I poured a lot of work into it. So for me personally, the art that I connect with the most is art that has some craftsmanship to it. I can appreciate abstract art, but for me, when I go into an art gallery, I'm always just like stunned when I see a painting, which I certainly can't create, that has an enormous amount of skill and time put into it. So I hope that my paintings reflect some of that, because I did pour a lot of time and effort into them. And I hope that the flower aspect of it does read as something beautiful, because that's how I'm seeing the flowers as I take them in. So I hope that people kind of get that like aesthetic appreciation that I feel like I'm experiencing on my walk. But beyond that, I feel like it's up to interpretation. I have one larger painting that's like a little bit more experimental, so I feel like people's interpretation of that might vary a little bit, but the 3 other smaller flower paintings are a little bit more representational, so those are more purely like, this is an aesthetically nice thing. So, yeah.
Coffee's a great place to be at, man. Why choose that venue, and what does that space mean to you just as a local creative?
Yeah, I've been going to coffee since I was probably a very small child. I used to take cello lessons at neighborhood music school all throughout my childhood. I was at creative arts all the time, so we'd always pop over to coffee and get a pastry, and I just love being there. And my friend I had mentioned that I had met in New Haven when I was just out of high school, we used to spend a lot of time there too. So it's very sentimental to me for a lot of different reasons. And it's always felt kind of like a grounding, like pleasant place to be. Again, similar to the flowers, I guess. Even if I'm having a bad day, I can still go there grab a latte and chill out and read a book, and I feel better. So,
A home
yeah,
away from home.
Yeah, definitely. I do see it like that.
Yeah, you mentioned that nature inspires you. What about nature speaks most deeply to you?
For me, I find it to be a place where I feel like I'm connecting to something spiritually. I don't have very like concrete beliefs, but
Mhm.
I do get this feeling of like connection to something more. I feel like when I see something really beautiful in nature, it's kind of that like awe-inspiring feeling. I hike a lot, so that's why I'm including some of my landscapes too, because I've just captured some moments there that I also found to be very beautiful.
Okay.
But I feel like it's grounding. It makes you feel connected to something more. It makes you appreciate it. I feel like a lot of people, I've been slowly trying to reduce the amount of plastic and various things that I use. And the reason why I'm cognizant of that more so is because I am seeing these beautiful places and I want to preserve them. And I wish that other people would be able to see them as much as I do, because I make a big effort to hike as much as I can. There's so many good places here in Connecticut for that. So
besides East Rock, what are some other like natural locations that influenced it?
I don't want to give away my spot.
Okay, you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? It's an open field, so.
Yeah. I will say, okay, this is outside of Connecticut, but a hike that's just outside of Connecticut that I really like. I went to school up in Western Mass, and please, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing this right, but I believe it's Mount Norwottuck. It's kind of near like Mount Tom. It's like, I don't mind giving that one away because it's a bigger hike, so you have to kind of work for it, but it's beautiful view, absolutely amazing. It's up near like Hadley, Amherst, and Massachusetts. So I'd recommend that to anybody. Yeah.
How do you capture the feeling of stillness or awe in a painting?
I don't know. I don't know if I've distilled it successfully or not. I feel like that's for the viewer to decide, but it's I don't know. I guess it's just capturing something at, I don't know, the most like beautiful, the moment that seems to me to be perfect. Like I'm trying to capture it at its peak at that moment. You know, like these flowers, when I take a picture of them, they're never going to look exactly that same way again. They might be gone in like 2 days. So stillness, I guess, to me, I've been thinking about it a lot because I've been reading some of Eckhart Tolle's books, The Power of Now and Stillness Speaks, and he talks a lot about nature and kind of like the stillness to be found in nature, and how like things like that in nature are kind of like pure and they are still and they're kind of sacred. So I guess I'm not sure if I have captured it or if I know how, but I do try just by expressing it in the way that I'm perceiving it, because I feel like when we're perceiving something beautiful, that's us being present and mindful, like in the moment, and we are taking it in, in a way that is, I don't know, important in some way. I can't really put my finger on it, but yeah, I don't know if I have the answer to that.
I think you did. I think it was a good answer.
I think it hit all the points. I think it hit all the points. It was there. It was necessary. It covered everything it needed to cover.
Okay.
It worked out well. See, this is one of the key things. It is so important is where people pull their inspiration and different things like that. And a lot of people have to get to like their happy place or their super sad place, or there's these different type of things. The fact that you can find that beauty and that archetype in the nature aspect of it is really, really incredible. Do you like to use nature more as a backdrop as well for like other pieces of art and different things?
Not as, but well, that's not true. The pen series I was mentioning is more like figurative work, or like kind of like nude figurative work, and then I put flowers in the background. So I guess in that way, yeah, that is the backdrop to those.
Okay.
And more of my portraiture, not so much. I'm just sort of focused on the face, or I do pet portraits. I try not to really make that too much of a thing, because for me that's more of a craft than my art. But I do like doing them, it's just different. But yeah, the portraiture has just been a little separate from that, I guess. I haven't really like merged the two so much.
Tell me about your creative process. What does it typically look like? Just give me a general idea, just from the idea to the final brush stroke.
Yeah. It kind of totally depends what I'm working on. I guess it
Hmm.
all boils down to me finding something inspiring, either because it has emotional significance or I just find it to be beautiful. With these flowers, it's mostly because I just found them to be, like stunningly beautiful.
Hmm.
So I usually almost always work with a reference photo. So I will ideally take my own reference photos. Sometimes for the figurative stuff, I'll pull reference photos from elsewhere. And then I will, I guess, for demonstration's sake, I'll talk about a flower.
Hmm.
I'll have the reference photo, and then I'll go ahead and prime the wood panel. That's what I use for these. I'll sketch the flower on, and then sometimes, if I'm not sure about the background, I'll use Procreate. That way I can mock up the background on Procreate, just because it's so easy to, like, throw a color down. If you don't like it, just erase it, throw another color down. So I'll kind of like play around with it until I like it. And then I will actually paint the background of the canvas. And then I'll go ahead and start working on rendering the flower. So it's like more in the foreground. And usually it's like a couple passes on each of the petals. So it's a pretty labor intensive process. It takes some time. I started working on these in March, I think. The time flew by. I thought I was going to be able to get more done, but yeah, this is kind of what I landed with. So
What role does patience play in your work, or spontaneously play in your work?
yeah, I mean, you definitely have to be patient when you're sitting down to work on something. I mean, you do get into that flow state though, so the time goes by quickly. It doesn't feel like the hours are ticking by. But usually, for me personally, I find I work best working 1 hour every day. I'll wake up, I'll eat breakfast, and then I'm totally fresh, and I'll I'll work for 1 hour, and I feel like my focus and my patience level at that point is like optimal.
Hmm.
But yeah, you have to be patient with the process. You have to like be okay with it looking a little weird for a minute and just sort of like accept that. And because the manner in which I work, I do like to stagger it out and not just pour over the canvas all day. It is, yeah, there's some patience involved in being okay with that and leaving it at an unfinished state and then, setting it aside for the next day. But I would say when you're actually painting it, for me, it doesn't require too much patience just because you're so absorbed in it that it doesn't feel like it's definitely work. It's cognitive work, but it doesn't feel slow or boring, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
No, totally.
What's
Yeah.
a technique that you mastered over time that once felt really difficult for you?
I mean, pretty much everything. It's like you
Mm.
start out as a beginner. You start out as a beginner doing everything. So, I mean, the work that I've done, I have pretty much every painting I've ever completed since 2012 on social media somewhere. I've always documented everything. And, looking back, it's like, I hope nobody ever looks at that aside from me. I mean, I like looking at it just for old time's sake, but yeah, almost everything I do. I mean, watercolor certainly didn't start out the way it looks now. I learned over time it's a little bit of a more like immediate technique. You can't like pour a bunch of water and paint on there and like layer it. Like in the beginning, I kind of approached it more like an acrylic painting, and then I had a mess. Like the paper was all like pilling, and it didn't look right. And now I'm much more. I have more of a plan, just because I've tried so many different things. Now I'm using less water, less paint, and not layering so much for that particular technique. But I mean, the same can be said for pretty much everything. It's a lot of like, it's an interesting process because a lot of it is, you do need to learn the craft, but some of it is just doing stuff repetitively, and naturally it starts to evolve. So, I mean, almost everything is kind of been that way.
Easy feel the same way with music?
Yeah, no, it's dead on. You know, where everything comes down to that certain vibration or the certain way the piece will make you feel, or and sometimes as you can go into it and the piece can feel a certain type of way, and then a little bit of a chord change or a simple lighting change, and you can change the entire piece. And you have to be really open for all of that. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is all of that aspect of you need to continue to push forward and evolve and grow, and the artist that you are today is nowhere near the artist you're going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, totally.
Do you challenge yourself? I know you're a young creative, like doing this in the game, but do you also work on multiple pieces more at one time? Because I've seen painters do that.
It's not my preference. I just don't really like doing it that way. I like to be able to focus,
Gotcha.
because I hate leaving multiple things unfinished at the same time. It just bothers me. Yeah, I mean, I would say with this road series, this was definitely me challenging myself. I have been working pretty small for the most part, so doing these paintings, for the last couple of years at least. So doing these bigger paintings was a challenge, especially the biggest one. It's 36 by 48, so it's
Wow.
quite big. For me, that's giant. And just the flowers themselves, I mean, for me personally, for this series, I don't know why, I just felt like it was important for me to freehand everything, which I mostly do, but, a lot of artists, including myself at times, tracing can be a valuable tool, or using a grid system, or for people that do murals, they'll use like a projector to project it on the wall. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a valuable tool as long as you're a creative and you're going to utilize it well. But for me, I wanted to challenge myself with this series to freehand everything. So that was a challenge too, just to make sure I was getting all the intricacies of these petals that get quite geometrically complicated in with my eye. That was a challenge for me. So yeah, that was me pushing myself.
That's awesome. Now, is this your first expedition, or have you done expeditions before?
I did one exhibition at Tusayan when it was still open a while ago, but I didn't make a body of work specifically for that. I was just sort of making work or bringing in work that I'd made before. So this is like the first exhibition where I've really tried to make a body of work specific to this. So yeah, I'd say this is my first more focused exhibition. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Have you ever painted someone who's someone or something who's ever moved you in an unsuspected way or unexpected way?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Not specifically. I feel like most of my work has been stuff that I have kind of chosen in a calculated way. It's not been spontaneous or somebody I was emotionally connected to per se. I mean, a lot of stuff has been meaningful to me. My friend that I had mentioned that I met at Creative Arts, unfortunately, he did pass away a few years ago. So I've made a lot of art with him in mind, and that's obviously very significant to me and important. And has been its own different kind of source of inspiration. But yeah, beyond that, I mean, yeah, not particularly beyond that. Yeah.
Well, let me go by my protocol. I got to do WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Preston, and partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made, Mr. E.Z. BlueZ. Emerson Smith is with us talking about her amazing art. What do you find most difficult and most rewarding about what you do?
Most difficult, I think, is what a lot of creatives feel is that, it's never good enough. Is my art good enough? Is it even worth it making this? Because there's always somebody out there who's going to be technically better than you. I mean, unless you're just phenomenally talented beyond the point that I can even imagine. So it can be hard. It can be hard, especially if you're out of the groove of making things and then you have those thoughts. It's really challenging to get back into it because, you question why you're doing it. And that's hard, and I think that's part of being human. And part of being a creative. I know a lot of people that struggle with the same thing. The most rewarding thing, I don't know. I mean, it's almost just like the process itself is like incredibly rewarding. It feels meaningful to me most of the time, unless I'm questioning myself. But there's something really special about like taking the skills that you have and creating something tangible and physical. And I think, I think art is important, whether or not we can fully put our finger on why that's the case. I think it would be very dull and sad if we didn't have any art or music. So I think being able to like contribute to that in some way is rewarding. But just, I don't know what my life would look like if I didn't have this. So I'm very grateful to have some amount of skill and have accumulated the knowledge to be able to make stuff. So that's, it is rewarding. Just the creative process itself, it can be very rewarding.
What does painting give you that nothing else does?
I mean, it's its own type of outlet for sure. If you're like going through a hard time or processing emotions, or again, when my friend passed, like processing that, it was a way of like connecting with those feelings and like connecting with him that I don't think I could have had without my creative process. Yeah, again, it's like kind of that weird, like, why do we make art? but we know it's important.
Right.
So it's kind of just its own special thing that nothing else can quite replicate.
What was the best reaction you ever got from a person who looked at your art? How were they inspired by it? That you, in your perception?
I mean, again, it's a lot of the commissions that I sold have been pet portraits. So
okay.
For people, that is very meaningful to them. I also am an animal lover. I have I don't know if you can see it, this tattoo is
That's really dope.
My parents' dog, Hazel, yeah, she's just the sweetest. Man. So I'm right there with them. But I've gotten a lot of, really positive reactions from painting people's pets. I think it's, it means a lot to them. It's something they're going to have forever. And unfortunately, dogs and cats and pets don't live long enough. So I think it's really nice for them to have something that they're always going to have. Right. So I've gotten some really positive reactions for those commissions. I think people really like them. So.
And it's cool that you got that on your hand, that pet's always going to be with you.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She deserves it.
Oh man, it's really been just interesting just to learn about your paintings and just like the art and the watercolor but like what is next after In Bloom? Like what do you have, anything else coming up in 2025? Please talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to continue expanding on this series because like I said, the months absolutely flew by when I started working on this stuff. So I'm hoping to, so I want to keep going with it. I'd love to hopefully show elsewhere, maybe approach some galleries. And my dream, which I don't know if it's going to happen, but my dream is I go to Art Basel every year because I have a lot of friends that do graffiti, and I really would love to show something down there. So I want to manifest that. I feel like it could happen.
Yes.
That's my hope. Yeah.
Yes. Manifest.
Yes.
Is a clothing line in the works in the next 5 years?
Clothing line. Not that I've ever contemplated. I mean, it's a cool idea. I don't know anything about making clothing. That sounds cool, though. I mean, if somebody knows how to do it, that's dope. But
well, speaking of that, what is the next evolution? You're dealing with this one project where it's dealing with flowers and roses and all those different aspects. So what is the next show for you? Where are you going to on this next avenue of evolutionary artistic endeavors?
I don't know. I mean, I think it could be really cool to like start exploring some of my portraiture on like a larger scale, because again, I've been doing a lot of it like very small scale. So I think it would be cool to see some like large scale portraits, maybe some of the background inspired by some parts of this show that I can kind of like, make a little bigger and more engaging for people. And then I'd also like to make some more paintings like that largest 36 by 48 one that was like a little bit more experimental and maybe still play with the concept of flowers, but like make it a little bit less representative and just, you know, play around with it a little more. So that's kind of my thought at the moment. Yeah.
So we can expect bigger. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. That's what I'm going to try for.
Do you ever return to old pieces and see them differently as time passes?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. There's some pieces that I didn't like initially that I've kind of like sat with a little more, and I'm like, I don't know why I hated it to like that level. And I can kind of see some nice moments in it after it's been sitting for a little while. And then some of the really old paintings I've worked on, you know, from like 2012, 2011, like I definitely don't see them the same way. You know, when I made them at the time, you know, you're so young, you know, this is the coolest thing ever. And now I look at them and I'm like, yeah, not so much. But I appreciate them, and I appreciate kind of like the freedom and lack of self-consciousness I had at the time about making art, even though I was much less like technically skilled. So I kind of appreciate those too. And it's a reminder to attempt to be not too judgmental about the process, even though, you know, you always feel like you should be doing a little bit better.
Have you ever painted something that revealed something about yourself you weren't expecting at all?
I don't know. Not particularly. Like I said, I'm pretty I usually work with a reference photo, so I kind of like know going in. I have a plan. I usually have a pretty like rigid plan for how I want things to look. And if they start to not look that way, I usually scrap it. So I don't tend to improvise too much, just because I don't think I work very well that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Just by looking at the pictures on your social media, I got a feeling that your style feels both delicate and intentional. How much of your work is guided by intuition versus planning?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I've been trying to flow a little bit more with intuition. I do. There's a heavy planning aspect to it, but when I am planning, I have been trying, especially in my pen series. They're very flowy. They have the feminine figure in them, and then the stuff in the back is the like plants and flowers and like sometimes like stars and other. This one that I'm looking at right now has some like chains in it. They're flowy. They're not something you'd like see in real life. So I try to kind of like, I don't know how I come up with it exactly. I just think about how it would look balanced, and then I use my intuition to kind of think about like how it would land well like in the frame of the photo. So I flow with that a little bit more. And then with the background of these flower paintings, that's also been kind of intuitive, but again, something that I sketch out ahead of time just so I know what I'm getting into, because I can't always see things very well in my mind's eye. I think I'm on that spectrum of, I forget what it's called, but there's a phenomena where you can't see things like in your mind's eye at all. Mine is like blurry. So right. I like to be able to like plan. Like I can't, if I think of somebody's face, like I can't. It's like sort of like a blurry mask. So I like to be able to like really like think it out and like look at it on paper before I commit to anything too much. But the pen drawings are good for that because I sketch it on with pencil first. So, you know, you can change whatever you want. Yeah.
Easy. Did Kenny have that same mindset in your band?
No, Kenny has what I have, and he has a more severe. He has synesthesia. So as he hears music, he actually sees colors and light and different type of visual aspects of that. That's synesthesia. Like I see it, but I see it in waves. He gets it in actual full pictures, and we love like listening to, especially like during practice space time. You know, if we got a new song, you know, well, what did you see here? What did you feel here? And that actually helps us with the songwriting aspect of it too, which is really, really interesting. But I was actually going to try to look up the name of the thing where where your mind's eye is blurring. But I was asked a question.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. Yeah, apparently some people can't see a thing. Yeah, yeah. it's like I can like imagine the word, but I can't remember it. It's just out of
No.
reach.
No, you're not like a game show or anything. We're just not trying to make your head hurt. But
Yeah.
I just want to know, just being in art for so long, do you feel it should comfort people, challenge, or both?
I mean, I think it can be anything. You know,
Hmm.
I think it's up to the artist and then also up to the viewer. I think, yeah, certainly, I think art should challenge. Does my art always challenge? No, I don't think so. But I don't know if it comforts either. But you know, I'm also perfectly happy looking at, you know, a beautiful landscape, and I do feel like a certain emotion and like a sense of comfort and like nostalgia and familiarity, and I think that's great, like that's valuable. And then I do think also that there should be pieces that challenge you and maybe confuse you and make you feel some conflicted emotions, and that's good too.
Mm.
There's a place for all of it.
You ever thought of doing murals?
Yeah, I have. I haven't gotten into it. I have a good amount of friends that are they paint graffiti or they paint murals, and I always thought it was really cool, but I just never quite got into the groove of learning. But I have considered it, and I do still consider it. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool.
What would you say to other emerging artists in New Haven, looking to find their creative lane or voice?
Um, I think that it's really good to have a foundation of knowing the craft.
Mm.
I think I forget what the saying is exactly, but you have to know the rules to break them.
Yes.
You know, break the
Yeah,
rules
definitely.
intentionally. I think I don't know if this is just like the old school mentality in me. I've obviously, you know, I have a bunch of tattoos. I'm in that community also, and there's a lot of newer tattooers who are kind of like skipping over the stage where you're like really learning multiple facets of the craft, and from there you can kind of evolve and like choose the direction you want to go in because you have that foundation. And I feel like I think that's important personally, because then if you want to make something loose and abstract, like you I think to really, again, just personal opinion, but I think to like really be an artist, it's important to know the craft and then explore. So that's what I would say is to commit to learning, doing the boring stuff that you might not want to do. I loved and learned a lot from going to figure drawing classes or sessions rather, and drawing from a live model. I found that to be extremely useful, and it's a lot harder to draw from life, so it's very good for your eye. Get out in nature, do some plein air painting. You know, get like a watercolor set. Try to again draw that landscape using your eye from life, and then you really learn about. You'll learn a lot doing that. I think personally, you know, if you're doing a still life, set something up with some good lighting that you can sketch with graphite. You know, like do the art school stuff, and then
Right.
then you'll learn and you'll find what you like, and then you can pursue that more. That'd be my advice.
If you could collaborate with another local artist, visual, or musical, or otherwise, who would they be and why?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I have too many talented friends.
It's like that
My
here.
friend, yeah, it is like that here. My friend Mike Miglietta, we've been meaning to do a collaboration, so I'm overdue with him. So that's my next collaboration on the horizon. And then I do have a bunch of friends out of state that I like to collaborate with. I collaborated with my friend Alex. He lives in Baltimore. He's a tattooer. We've done a bunch of watercolor collaborations where I've done half and then I mailed it to him. He's done the other half. So
That's
that's been really
awesome.
fun. Yeah. Yeah.
WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Preston, and my great colleague, Mr. EZ Blues. Emerson, where just reinstate where your exposition is, what date, just tell us people about your work and where can people just find you. And also, if you can also commission a piece as well, too. This time is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the exhibition will be at Coffee. It's on Saturday, July 12th from 8 to 10 p.m. So we'll have like a fun little after hours party. I'll have snacks and drinks and wine. And I commissioned my acquaintance, I guess, but this girl who makes really awesome cakes. So we'll have a custom rose themed cake. So that'll be really cool. And yeah, so that's where you can find me that day. It should be fun. Obviously it's open to everybody. There's no admission, totally free, just going on through. For commissions, I am now again taking commissions now that this show is happening and I'm not actively making this body of work. So Instagram is usually the quickest and easiest way to contact me. So it's Ms. Milo. It's MIZZZMILO. And then email is also good. It's emersonmiloart@gmail.com. Those are the two best ways. I will also have business cards available at the show, so people can just grab them and yeah. But yeah, that's I forget. I think I'm missing something.
No, it's not your fault. We're just going to blame the heat. It's crazy in Connecticut right now.
Heat.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We're
Nelly is
down.
singing right now. It's horrible.
It's insane. We're going to be at coffee, having a great time, enjoying your artwork, feeling the vibes, network with a whole bunch of great people. And we just wish you plenty of success. We really do. We really do.
Thank
we need
you.
more. Yeah, definitely. It's hard just being committed for being what you do, and just any craft that you take part of. So we definitely appreciate you. We just want to give you your flowers right now.
And I found out what that word was, by the way.
Go ahead, Easy.
It was aphantasia.
Aphantasia. Got it. Yeah. Yep, that was the one.
That's the word.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Emerson, thank you. We appreciate this time. We really do.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. You guys are great. It's a great chat.
Definitely. We try our best. Myself, Preston, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City, Maine, Mr. Easy Blues on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, New Haven.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just discount? I don't know.